Powered by Riverside.
Wednesday and Happy New Year's. Yeah, let me give a round of applause to everyone out there. Thank you guys for tuning in. Today's Wednesday, December 31st, and this is the final episode of the TNC Sports Talk of 2025. I am blessed to be able to have this opportunity to come on here, talk sports with you guys. I've learned so much this year, so I'd like to take a moment and just reflect back of 2025 and the progress that has been made on this channel. So look, started podcasting in 21. Things shifted and changed, and I had a child. My third child was a boy, and that kind of conflicted with podcasting on a daily basis as he grew older. And earlier this year we were able to place him in daycare, and Terry and I, who's a good colleague of mine, I'll talk about him in just a moment, he reached out to me this past summer and said, hey, look, I would like to get some interviews done with cast members for our upcoming theater production. And so Terry, as I agreed, and we did this, went to do some productions, projects this summer, got me back into podcasting on a weekly, daily basis. I had no idea what direction that went down. And now we're back at it 5 days a week. I'm thankful for Riverside for what they have provided in their subscriptions. I recently signed up this past holiday season, and so far, so good. It kind of helps me and gives me the baseline to be able to put together short videos and clips all through the source of my, podcast episode. So thank you, Riverside, for the extra post-production work that you make it easier for a content creator like me who is still trying to learn and develop and grow to be able to push forward. Kind of gives me another boost of confidence. Acts like I know what I'm doing. This year has been all about gaming. The gaming content that we transitioned for back when we stopped our podcasting. The design of the gaming content was to provide content on a regular basis to replace the lack thereof when it came down to podcasting. So it started back with the baseball series in 2024. We did some wrestling. We had NFL, Madden games in simulations, and we carry that through 2025. Almost at the end of another Madden series. Wrestling has kind of been on a little hiatus, and I don't necessarily have any plans for that to continue at the moment. There are some other obligations I will get into that is going to take up a lot of extra time and not provide me time to continue with the WWE 2K universe mode. But I want to thank the gaming aspect of this channel, and whatever direction that this channel goes in for 2026, one of my hopes and dreams is to continue the gaming channel, because the gaming channel is what gave us our viewerships, is what gave us our 1,000 subscribers. And it also gave me the opportunity to start creating and posting shorts, which is another reign of YouTube that I have not explored up until this past year. So in 2026, I don't know how, but I feel it's only right to try to find a way to continue the homage of creating AI content for the video games. Now, it's very simple. I stick to baseball and football, the two sports that kind of mean the most to me. And so, as the playoffs in Madden continues into January, I'll have to think about what the idea and how it would be presented for another season of MLB The Show. I wouldn't play as a specific team. I tried that in 24. There's a lot of games and a lot of commitment that has to be made for that. So I'm not going to play those games. I'm going to let AI play. And I'd rather just do that so I could give you better games that you guys want to tune into and watch. Unfortunately for football, maybe next season I won't be a specific team. This year and last year I played as the Cincinnati Bengals, but that was because you can't just simulate. But what I've been able to do was when you connect to online on the PS5, you pop up the game, and I'm probably talking nonsense for a lot of people here, but under Quick Play, you are able to play games of that week. Starts on Tuesday, ends on Monday. So maybe I could do that and then go in and plug in the force win in the schedule and then fast forward. That's an option. And that way I could just select compelling, interesting games. Unless I get some sort of feedback, and the feedback is significant enough that says, hey, continue playing as the Cincinnati Bengals. I love the one versus computer parts, as well as the computer versus computer. So depending what happens down in the chat, that's something we'll have to have a discussion later. So as we end 2025, we have a lot to be thankful for. A lot of great opportunities have presented itself, and a lot of those opportunities are going to roll over into 2026. And I made an announcement that you may be not familiar with earlier today, and I'd like to share that with you on our direct channel. And I'm proud to say that in 26, I will be partnering with Enlighten Studios, as I will be joining their social media and marketing team to help grow their social media followers and create content. Enlighten Studios has been established back in 2018 by Terry Chappell and Nikhil Chappell. And I came in contact with Terry working at the Christ Hospital years ago. One of the few people that I still keep in contact with from the hospital to this day. When he got wind of me being able to do recordings and doing podcast and video content, him and I collaborated in a few of his projects to host interviews, to provide a live stream broadcast in hopes to help promote their product. Now, Enlighten Studios is a art design company. It's a nonprofit organization. They focus their primary points of theater productions, as well as hosting events and conducting volunteer service back to the community. They are a faithful-based company that has core values relating back to one criteria. And in 2026, Enlighten Studios will be plans on hosting not one, not two, but 8 theater productions. As they look to grow, they also look to build a relationship and connect more on a daily basis with their followers through the content on their social media accounts. Earlier this past season, fall season, Enlighten Studios and I and a team came together and had this conversation about focusing on content creating and expanding Enlighten Studios back to their social media accounts. And so an agreement has been made that heading into 2026, I myself will be partaking and contributing time and efforts into Enlighten Studios' social media and any progression that they may have for me. We plan to grow and to publish content on their YouTube page, their Facebook page, Instagram, TikTok. And through the things that I have learned over the past couple of weeks about creating content, about creating shorts, and I continue to learn, I intend to take all of that experience and knowledge with me to Enlighten Studios to share and to also learn. So if it would do me wonders, and I know this is a sports channel, but it would do me wonders if you, as a community supporting me, would also join me in supporting Enlighten Studios and their projects moving forward. They have an upcoming theater production, first one of the year, called Grassroots. It's about a black family in the 1950s that moved into a neighborhood in Cincinnati. They deal with secrets and obstacles and stuff to overcome. And so this story is told of a family who faces those challenges in a community that they may not be welcomed in by everyone. People who would judge, people who are directed to view things in a certain way that he brings to light in this production. And it'll be taking place from February 20th through March 1st at the Artsville Theater in Cincinnati, Ohio. Tickets are available. A link in the description will be provided below. And I encourage you guys to get your tickets while you can. We want to grow Enlighten Studios. Come out. I will be there. I intend to have another live broadcast on location, and there is just an excitement that comes with this. Trust me, I've already been to one of their rehearsals. It's a fun atmosphere. It's in depth. It's collaborable. You'll love it. I can guarantee. I've been to those productions. This past year, Enlighten Studios have already put out productions like Dinner with the Few Sides of Drama, which I thought was a big hit. And the sky's the limit for Enlighten Studios. And as they grow, I'd like to take you on with me. So that doesn't change anything for this show. This is still a Monday through Friday, 5 days a week, 7 p.m. Release date. We're talking about sports. We're talking about the Cincinnati Bengals and the Cincinnati Reds. And we'll still talk about news and highlights. But you could also check us out. Check me out on Enlighten Studios. And a link to their YouTube page and a link to their Facebook page will be provided below. So go follow them today. Man, that was a big news. I was always wondering, because I talk to myself before these shows sometimes. How am I going to put this together? I always stumble on my words. And I think I did pretty good here in that factor. So I'm giving myself a round of applause. Good show so far. All right. So let's get down to business, because we have a lot to talk about here as we wrap up 2025. Now, remember, we will not be here. Tonight is New Year's Eve. We'll not be here tomorrow. We'll not be here Friday. We will resume back to our normal Monday through Friday, 7 p.m. next Monday. The only thing that will stand in the way from an episode being published Monday through Friday, 7 p.m., is if I'm sick, is if I have a family emergency, or if we have a snow day, or one of the kids are out of school and they are at home with me. It's a little bit difficult to put up an episode when you have a toddler running around underneath you during your broadcast, making those noises in the back. I can deal with the older kids. I can deal with the adults. I'm still overcoming some things, but those are, when you have a little kid running around because daycare closes early, or they're closed for the day because it snowed in or whatever not, then it becomes a little bit more challenging. But I will keep you up to date as I am more active on our YouTube page, our Facebook page, and our TikTok page as well. I want to thank everyone for supporting those channels, by the way. I am also very nervous expanding those expanding in those fields when it comes down to shorts. There's a lot of people that have positive feedbacks, negative feedbacks. I don't mind constructive criticism. I'm okay with that. Help me to give you a better product. That's what I desire. I want to do nothing but leave you the best product that I could possibly provide. I am not, Pat McAfee. I am not Colin Cowherd. I am not Ben and Woods. I am not Coach John Quintera, from any means stretch. I'm just on here giving you my take and my expertise from what I know, my opinions. They may not be correct. You may not like them. It may be nonsense. But, with that room, with the access I have on, online and what I could gather in content in time, I will do my best to give you as accurate information. Things change all the time. I will do my best to give you an honest opinion based off of what I can give you. So that is how open this show is, by the way. So, all right, let's get down to business. We're going to kick things off with college football, as today we actually have one game for the college football in the semifinal or quarterfinals. Was it last week? We saw James Madison lose to Oregon, Alabama beating Oklahoma, Miami beating Texas A&M, and Ole Miss beating Tulane. In the quarterfinals, we have one matchup. Matter of fact, it'll be coming on here in just a few moments from this publication, and that is Miami taking on Ohio State. I am an Ohio State fan, so I'm kind of rooting for them. Non-biased opinion. I know there are some differences with Sayan hitting the portal, but I don't think we're going to really worry about that until after the college football players. I would like to see Ohio State win it back-to-back years. So I'm rooting for Ohio State. Tomorrow we have 3 bowl games. The first one's kicking off on noon, and that will be the Orange Bowl, where Oregon takes on Texas Tech. And then at 4 o'clock, we have the Rose Bowl out there in Pasadena as Alabama takes on Indiana. And then at 8 o'clock, we have the Sugar Bowl as Ole Miss takes on Georgia. To wrap up, those winners, the winner of the Texas Tech, and the winners of the Orange Bowl and the Rose Bowl will face each other. And then the winners of the Cotton Bowl and the Sugar Bowl will face each other. And then those 2 winners will go on to face each other in the national championships here in the upcoming weeks. So we will have a better picture of what that playoff picture looks like as the brackets will update after this New Year's Day or New Year's Eve, New Year's Day scenario. A lot of football still to be played, and we're excited. Well, just because the college football playoffs continue, and that's going to be the primary focus, there's a couple of bowl games that continue this week as they wrap up the bowl games. Today, that would have been concluded today already at noon, would be Iowa versus Vanderbilt. Arizona State takes on Duke in the Sun Bowl. Iowa and Vanderbilt was a Relic West Bowl. And then Michigan takes on Texas at the Citrus Bowl. Nebraska takes on Utah at the Las Vegas Bowl today at 3:30. And then we have the college football playoff game between Miami and Ohio State that concludes New Year's Eve. On New Year's Day, we focus primarily on the 3 college football games scheduled. On Friday, we'll have Rice versus Texas State at the Armed Forces Bowl at 1 o'clock. The game that I'm also circling on my calendar, Navy versus Cincinnati, at 4:30 at the Liberty Bowl. And then at 8 p.m., we would have had the Holiday Bowl as Arizona takes on SMU, as well as the Duke Mayo Bowl as Wake Forest takes on Mississippi State. Already finals so far in the bowl games, which were done yesterday. We had Coastal Carolina losing to Louisiana Tech at the Independence Bowl, 23-14. Illinois beating Tennessee 30-28 at the Music City Bowl. And TCU taking on USC. TCU beating USC 30-27 at the Alamo Bowl. And so for me, there's a lot of pride that is to be said when you're playing in these bowl games. They're, especially around the holidays, early, the bowl games I think get more noticed during Christmas and Thanksgiving, New Year's, because that's associated with the college football playoffs. And there's a little bit of everything for everybody. What I like about this coming up week when you're looking at the sports, like we're going to watch and tune into the Miami, Ohio tonight. I'm going to have college football on all day, so I can focus on those 3 games. And then on Friday, I can kind of sit back, relax, and then at 4:30, tune into Navy versus Cincinnati. On Saturday, we transition into the NFL because the NFL's final week now is among us. And we've talked heavily on our show about the NFL final weeks and the scenarios. We've talked about how the Panthers and the Jaguars and the Texans could make history for the first time. Heading into this weekend, if the Panthers can seal a playoff spot and win the NFC South Division, they would have to either beat Tampa Bay, or they would also, but if they lose, they would need Atlanta to win on Saturday. We'll get to that in a moment. But their history is made because these 3 teams, it's been 31 years since they've been in existence in the NFL. And these 3 teams have a chance to make history by all advancing to the playoffs all together for the very first time. For the AFC South, the Jaguars just need to beat the Titans, and it should be problematical and common sense, depending where they're at, in order to win the division. If they lose, the Texans have a chance to win if they beat the Colts. And the Colts, one of the most, I think, catastrophic teams heading to talk about this offseason is how much of a buildup the Colts have been with Daniel Jones and how fast they crumbled to even missing the postseason. Because I remember talking back in November about teams who are up there but could possibly miss the postseason this year. The Colts were not on that list. The Chargers were. And the Chargers have already sealed their fate by clinching a wild card spot. But the Colts, man, I feel so terrible for the Colts fans to see how that season unraveled. My feelings are for you here. But, we're also heading into this final week. And yes, all despite the 2 divisions that haven't been clinched yet, one of the 4 teams will clinch. We'll give you those scenarios in a moment. But all heading into week 18, the final week of the season, there's only one team that has sealed a seed in the playoffs. That is the Green Bay Packers at this number 7 seed. 1 through 6 in the NFC is still up for grabs depending on how outcomes go. All 7 in the AFC are up for grabs depending on how the outcomes go. I think that's a remarkable statement to say. But let's break down heading into week 18 to think about here. On Saturday, we have a doubleheader, and we're kicking things off with the Carolina Panthers and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, Carolina has made this back end of the season run. They have gained the lead in the NFC South, and they look to lock up a division title with a victory on Saturday. And they could do so with a win. Tampa Bay, who has been favored to win the division with Baker Mayfield, and they have received their first true test this season. And Baker was forced to go up, and the Buccaneers were forced to go up with some of the top-tier teams. And it was a statement. It was, you're either going to sink or swim if you want to be considered as an elite team in the NFC or even in the NFL. You're going to have to conquer and find a way to win these games. Well, they don't do so well. And their record shows as they come in 7-9, they're in second place of the NFC South, but they're not out of the division title just yet. The fact is that A division title is going to be crowned. The other team is going to go home. Tampa Bay could keep their hopes alive. It's putting faith in your own hands. Just do what you have to do to give yourself the best chance of winning. All Tampa Bay could do is win. But it doesn't end there. Because thanks to the Falcons' victory earlier this week on Monday, the Falcons are also 7-9. And in order for the Buccaneers to win the division, not only they would need a win over the Colts, but they would need the Falcons to lose. If the Falcons win, they would also be 8-9, and therefore there will be a three-way tie in the division, which then comes down to head-to-head competition that the Carolina Panthers have the advantage of. So Carolina doesn't necessarily need to win. But do they really want to put their season in the fate or in the hands of the Falcons? The Buccaneers, they don't have to worry about it. They have nothing to lose, but all to gain, because if they lose, they go home. And if they win, they still have to wait around for what the outcome is on Sunday. So that kicks things off on Saturday. On Saturday at 8 p.m., and both games are on ABC, by the way, a battle for the NFC West and a battle for the number one seed in the NFC is up for grabs as the Seattle Seahawks take on the San Francisco 49ers. The Seahawks win. They clinch the number one seed, and they clinch the NFC West division. If the 49ers win, the Seahawks will clinch the number 5 division, and then the 49ers will clinch the number 1. The little twist to this is that if San Francisco loses on Saturday, it's all about seeding. So if San Francisco loses, we see Seattle clinch and seed number 1. But depending on the outcome between the Cardinals and the Rams game on Sunday, can determine whether or not 49ers are seeded 5th or are seeded 6th. If the Rams win, they are seeded 5th. If the Rams lose, they will be seeded 6th based off of a 49ers loss. An interesting note to take a part of this, and in this particular matchup, is that Sam Darnold, for the second straight season, will play in Week 18 for the number 1 seed in the NFC, which is on the line on Saturday. Seattle, this case, are hoping that Sam Darnold does a little bit better than what he did last season with Minnesota. But Sam Darnold has the opportunity to rewrite history, as he has a chance to have not only win the NFC West, win the number 1 seed, have that first round bye to give themselves a fighting chance in the playoffs. I think that the Seahawks have a little bit better advantage heading into this game Saturday night. I will, on a nutshell, predict that the Seahawks will beat the 49ers, clinch the division. Rams will beat the Cardinals, and we will see the Rams in the number 5 seed and the 49ers in the number 6 seed. That's how I see this unwinding right now in that scenario format. If Seattle loses, they will automatically clinch the 5th seed, which means Los Angeles will clinch the 6th seed. And that may change the dynamic of how they approach Week 18 against the Cardinals. I still think, despite that, the Rams will pull off a victory, but they may want to suggest, hey, let's play some backups and rest some starters. For the Panthers, I think that it's a simple Panthers win and you get it out of the way. It's honestly a coin toss, but I seek out the Panthers winning this Saturday. But I think it would be a good on your edge seat because everyone, if you're a Panthers fan, if you're a Buccaneers fan, you're watching. The entire AFC South would be watching the Saints and Falcons game on 1 o'clock on Fox if the Buccaneers do win. Now, we know that the Bengals are taking on the Browns. They beat the Browns back in week 1. But there's a debatable discussion that because Bengals capitalized on the Browns' mistakes to win the game that, they should have lost. Last game of the season, both teams are eliminated. They already know where they're placed at in the division. The Bengals have won the last 2 games in a row, beating the Dolphins and the Cardinals. They hope to at least finish off a three-peat. I said this earlier in the week. They ended off the season or the calendar year with a victory. They should hopefully want to end off the year, begin 2026 with a win, and they have a chance to do so. I said something earlier on social media about Shedeur Sanders beating Green Bay Packers, or not the Green Bay Packers, but the Pittsburgh Steelers last Sunday and beating Aaron Rodgers. And I had some comments come back that stated, look, it was a defense that won the game. Sure. And I agree with that. I didn't necessarily watch the game. I knew it was low scoring, but a couple of things that I took away from that game was, one, Cleveland, when they're out of an opportunity to reach in the postseason, their season's done with long ago, they held a contending team that could have sealed up the deal and locked in a division win with a victory. And everyone was going into this with a victory mindset. Last Sunday, I was astonished to see Cleveland upset the Steelers. And I don't know how you felt, but for me, if I'm Cleveland, if I'm the young talent on Cleveland, if I'm Shedeur Sanders as a quarterback, no, I didn't have a whole lot to contribute to the win, but we beat the Steelers. We beat the team that was supposed to win the division. We beat Aaron Rodgers, a future Hall of Fame. We, as a unit, beat Mike Tomlin, a Hall of Fame head coach. Like I said, this team, the Steelers are winning, has had 22 consecutive winning seasons under Mike Tomlin. Aaron Rodgers has had numerous success. They are in fingertips of clinching the NFC North for the postseason, and everyone expected Pittsburgh just to come in and annihilate the Cleveland Browns. So I'm not just talking about Shedeur Sanders. I'm talking about that young talent, because there's a lot of questions coming out of Cleveland of how they are going to approach and what are they going to focus on for the 2026 offseason. But when a team like the Browns can pick up a victory and surprise the NFL with a win over the Steelers, now I know the Steelers aren't the New England Patriots. I know the Steelers aren't the Philadelphia Eagles, but they're still one of the best teams in the division. And the fact that the Browns can at least pick up a victory, you keep Aaron Rodgers out of the end zone. Yes, give credit to the defense. They did a tremendous job. You kind of question, where have they been all season, just like we've been questioning the Bengals. But the reality is that this type of victory can boost confidence in this young team, specifically in Shedeur Sanders. And there is a lot to talk about when it comes down to Shedeur Sanders. I don't think that he's going to be the next top-tier quarterback, elite quarterback. No, he has a long ways to go. But this could be the start of saying, all right, this is where our placement is. We were able to beat a tough team, and the Steelers are a tough team. Therefore, what type of confidence does that lead to us heading in down for the future, for the offseason? I'm sure Cleveland comes into this game on Sunday. I know there's nothing to other than bragging rights and whatnot, splitting the series in Ohio. But Cleveland will love nothing to do but to repeat their performance last week and carry it over into Cincinnati. The Bengals will love nothing more but to finish off the season with the last 3 victories of the year, having momentum, having given the fans at least something to say, hey, this team is broken, this team is cracked, but we're not out. We will be back next year. We will be better next year. And that it was shown for how we played over the last 3 teams. Because guess what? They should be beating the Dolphins and the Cardinals and the Browns. It's already predicted. Now they got to make it happen. So that's what makes this game this Sunday interesting for Bengals fans to tune into and watch. You got the Cowboys and Giants. The Packers, who already know, sealed up a deal. They take on the Vikings. The Colts and the Texans, as I've explained to you, their situation. Texans, all they could do is win the game. And they would have to put faith into the Jaguars and Titans game. They've already made the playoffs. They've clinched a playoff spot, or, as a number 5 seed. Or not the 5 seed, but they currently hold the 5 seed. So they're looking, but they could win a division. If Texas was to win a division, they would need a win with the Jaguars' loss. Both games play out 1. So I'm sure you're going to see both teams put out their starters. The Saints and Falcons game. And then we get the Cardinals and Rams. Like I said, the Rams are going to already learn about how they are going to approach their game before Sunday goes, because the outcome is going to be on Saturday night between the Seahawks and 49ers. The Lions and Bears, which, one of the other teams that surprised me this year that you expected to easily walk in, clinch the division, and be in the postseason this year in the Lions. I did not expect the Bears to win 10 games this season, and I'm impressed. So kudos to the Bears. And this is going to be, I kind of think of this as kind of an awkward relationship, right? Because it should be a reversed scenario. Chiefs and the Raiders on Sunday afternoon. Chargers and Broncos. Here's the interesting fact. The Broncos have cleaned up and sealed an AFC West division thanks to a Chargers loss last weekend. The question comes out of Los Angeles. Justin Herbert has not had a week off since breaking his hand. It's been over 4 weeks, and it may be a strategy to, you want to play for seeding, but at what cost, knowing that your players are injured and not well? Do you take this week knowing that you have a wild card game, knowing that you're going to be on the road regardless, and do you rest some players? And it's all going to go against Denver too, because they're looking to seal the number 1 seed, and they want a first-round bye. The Dolphins and Patriots on Sunday. Bills and Jets, another team that have clinched the division. I thought they were going to kind of be out of it for a moment. Commanders and Eagles on Sunday, and then we get down to Sunday Night Football, where it's a winner-take-all as the Steelers host the Ravens. The Steelers beat the Ravens in Baltimore earlier this year, and whoever wins will go on to winning the division and having that home game in the playoffs. So that is Week 18's matchup. A couple interesting stories. I think there's a little bit of everything to look at this year, as we wrap up another season. But it's always intriguing of how these seasons come ahead. Earlier this year, baseball's final weeks, it came down to the weekend of, just to see if the Reds had what it takes to make it to the postseason. No, I don't think any team wants to come down to the wire and come down to the final games of the year, but that's what we love about sports, right? Because it's anyone's ball game still. So, all right, we're going to move on as we wish you guys a happy new year. Excuse me. WWE SmackDown is going to be this Friday, first SmackDown of the new year, and they have a few interesting things to look at as we preview. Now, remember, the Drew McIntyre and Cody Rhodes 3 stages of hell match will be held on January 9th, next Friday. We'll have a little bit more time to talk about it. I feel like I thought for a moment that it was going to be this Friday, but maybe I think they're in Berlin next week. And so maybe that's something to promote and sell. I know on these WWE live events, Drew and Cody's been going through hell in these stipulations matches, but I'm excited for next Friday for that fight. But we are left with something to talk about heading into this Friday. High stakes, because it seems like the golden age of women's wrestling in the women's tag team division has arisen. We will showcase a rematch from the WWE Survivor Series War Games earlier this year. Alexa Bliss, Charlotte Flair, Io Sky, and Rhea Ripley will be taking on the Kabuki Warriors, Nia Jax, and Lash Legend. All of the teams involved have a chance to prove why they should be the one helming the division in 2026. With every pairing, make statements that they want to be on the top of the division. I think we have some great talent right now at the top of the women's tag team division, which is always a hit or miss for most people. The big straw, the final straw that this feud has been going on for several months since the return of Alistair Black. We will see Alistair Black and Damien Priest go through hell one more time, as hopefully for the final time this time, to end this brutal and barbaric war once and for all as they compete in an ambulance match. They've had traded wins back and forth, and supposedly it was the final meeting in the last man standing match where we saw Alistair Black come out on top via a fireball that was used to help from his wife Zelina. But we get it one more time. How will this chapter end? Is this the final chapter? I love a good storytelling. And I think Damien Priest and Alistair Black is one of those stories in 2025 that may not have hit main event status on a pay-per-view or a premium live event, but is going to be one of those stories that we talk about and we compare to stories back in, I'm going to say, the ruthless aggression era. The story between Damien Priest and Alistair Black has had its ups and downs. It's faded. It's grown heat. And I think we've hit that peak moment where we can put a pin in it of whoever wins and then come back to it later. But the elevation that this feud has taken, where there are stipulations and even stipulations aren't good enough to finish the feud, grows into even more. Reminds me of feuds with, Shawn Michaels and John Cena. Reminds me of feuds with Eddie Guerrero and Rey Mysterio. Batista and JBL, Randy Orton and The Undertaker. Where you start this feud that carries over a couple months. It doesn't get told every week, but it always circles back around to this feud. So no contender can really officially progress in their career until this feud finishes. And you just add a little bit more piece by piece by piece as the weeks go on, because it makes you want to tune in and see, hey, what's happening next? What is the next big thing that they could do? They had a last man standing match. An ambulance match is something that you don't see in the WWE often. So when we get treated to an ambulance match, it is a must tune in match. Just like Cody Rhodes and Drew McIntyre's match next week on SmackDown, where it's going to be the 3 stages of hell. It's been well over a decade since we last seen a 3 stages of hell, and it's between 2 very talented opponents that it could go either way. So I don't know where you will be at this Friday. This name may not be but this is going to be a match to talk about. A feud of 2025 maybe, and maybe ends, maybe doesn't, but concludes or hits another level of chapter in their feud to begin 2026. We will also see Jade Cargill take on Machine and much more. So SmackDown, let's remember, it is going back to 3 hours. I believe that starts this Saturday or this Friday. And so the runtime is a bit different, but there's a lot of highlights and expectations for 2026. And I like it. You know, when I think of the new year of the WWE, I think of the road to WrestleMania. I know the saying goes, the road to WrestleMania starts the night after the Royal Rumble. Actually starts at the Royal Rumble. I personally believe that last year, I thought it started at the beginning of the calendar year where we saw the return of the Rock, the Netflix era, and all that fun stuff. I go back even further because matches and results dated back to Survivor Series plays a role and effect into heading to WrestleMania, because some of their ideas and plans start at the end of November to build that feud that leads into a WrestleMania match. So as we approach WrestleMania in 2026, something to keep in mind about, what feuds that we saw begin, no matter how small they started, in November, Survivor Series, late December, that has carried over the calendar year and has grown. Right now we have CM Punk and Braun Breaker, possibly an Austin Theory push. This feud with Drew McIntyre and Cody Rhodes. You know, when we look at the WrestleMania match card, it will be interesting to go back and to see, well, how far did that really go? Because it doesn't always start at the Royal Rumble. So, Friday Night SmackDown to this Friday. And so that will be on the USA Network. All right, I want to wrap up. We got 2 more things here. I appreciate it's a longer episode than normal, but it's the last episode of the calendar year. Last episode for the next couple of days. So I wanted to really just touch base with a little bit of everything that I have going on here. I do want to talk and touch base with the Cincinnati Reds roster. As we have talked about earlier this week, they have added some additional players to the roster. They've had to make some moves, as we saw Richardson and Keegan Thompson be released for guys like J.J. Bleday and Dane Myers. And, the pivotal moment is, hey, what does this Reds roster look like at the end of 2025 heading into 2026? Interesting kind of pivotal note, the Reds are taking a gamble on the Fireball breakout season in Japan as they picked up Junior Marte. Marte is he's played between the San Francisco Giants and the Philadelphia Phillies from 22 to 24. He went out to the Japan season last year, and he has signed a minor league contract with the organization to help build a depth bullpen for these Reds. So the Reds don't seem to be done. It may not be in favor for them at the moment because they're not really any big top tier names. But we may have learned a little bit more information on the reasonings why Ketel Marte would not be picked up by the Reds. Since the winter meetings, there's been a rumor that's lurking around that the Reds are interested in Arizona second baseman Ketel Marte. That would add depth for our infield, possibly a more utility position for a player like Matt McLain. But it may not be as easy as we think it would be, because it would have to involve the Reds enduring a trade. So now you start thinking, well, if we were going to trade for Ketel Marte, who is still going to earn over $100 million over the next 4 years, because his contract goes throughout 2030, who will we be giving up? And he is probably, if not the top talent coming out of Arizona. Arizona has made it clear because the Reds are not the only team interested in Marte. They want to have players. Seattle's been interested. A little insight from Seattle Mariners baseball's reporters has indicated that the Diamondbacks would have a non-negotiation for a starting pitcher that is MLB ready, several, not one, possibly two, if not more, prospects, top-tier prospects, and then some. And when you look at, okay, well, what does the Reds have to offer for a guy like Ketel Marte? You got Nick Lodolo, you have Chase Burns, you have Rhett Lauder, possibly Andrew Abbott, if the price is right. So those are your starting options. Then you have maybe multiple other guys, prospects. Sal Stewart, is that worth the gamble to let Sal Stewart go, or do we want to hang on to him? And then some other guys, too. So, honestly, my question is it even worth the interest, knowing, okay, I mean, maybe I could give up Nick Lodolo. Maybe I could give up a starting pitcher. When we start tackling in, you want 3-4 people for one player. I mean, Matt McLain still looks like a better option at the moment. Now, if you were just doing one-on-one trade, maybe one-on-two trade, all right, let's poke the bear. I feel like Arizona has such a high market right now, which they should. It's heading into the season. If they want to get rid of him, if they want to entertain the idea, you probably have a better option getting a lot more during the trade deadline. But it would kind of be unreal right now for the Reds to pick up a guy like Ketel Marte. And it kind of puts a damper to my 2025 baseball analysis, because I'm still searching for the Reds, that one key player that kind of is, when you want to talk about how did the Reds do this offseason, the only conversation piece is Emilio Pagan, and he's already a familiar face in Cincinnati. So that doesn't really do anything for me. I'm still missing that one position player that stands out, that says, all right, hey, look, let's get this done. So right now, let's look at the depth chart for the Cincinnati Reds. They have Hunter Green, Brady Singer, Andrew Abbott, Chase Burns, Brandon Williamson, and Julian Aguirre as options for your starting five. I see Green, Singer, Abbott, Burns, Williams, I actually see Lodolo fitting in that rotation. Over in your bullpen, you see Ashcraft, Ferguson. I would put Williams down in the bullpen, but you have Maxwell, Phillips, Santillan, and Pagan as your closer. Tyler Stevenson and Jose Trevino behind the plate. Spencer Steer at first base. Matt McLain at second base. Key Brian Hayes is at third. Ellie De La Cruz at short. Gavin Lux in left field. TJ Friedel in center field. And Noelvi Marte in right field. We just added some additions to the roster in Dane Myers, Will Benson, JJ Bleday. Those are some outfielders options. Sal Stewart is another guy that we can kind of toss in the mix, with Gavin Lux also going out to be your designated hitter. So I am almost convinced that this season, or this upcoming season, is going to be around strategizing, finding where to place players, and mixing in that lineup on a daily basis. It's going to be when we take out Tyler Stevenson, can we put him as a DH so we can still utilize his at bat? I will focus, and this will be a dive heading into DH, into the spring season for baseball, as we kind of start breaking down, well, how do you play that DH role? Maybe there are some exclusive guys that you want to make sure has that opening, and you got to rotate them in. One of the biggest focus points that I had that was an issue last season is that the usage of Ellie De La Cruz. Terry Francona even agreed that Cruz needed more time off, but he wanted to be out there on the field. He was dealing with some injuries. He was banged up, but in the position that the Reds were in late in the season, he couldn't miss it at bat. Now, you know, I've heard this on Locked On Reds podcast last year and a suggestion that I even agree with, to utilize, you know, at least Elly De La Cruz, giving him an additional day off, maybe at the beginning of a series or at the end of a series, knowing that you have the off day the day after or the day prior to it. So let's, for example, the Reds, you know, take on, you know, the Rockies at home Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and they're off that Monday, or they're off that Thursday before taking on the Dodgers over the weekend. Well, you know that Elly De La Cruz would benefit being in that lineup Friday, Saturday, and Sunday against the Dodgers. So you obviously have that off day Thursday, but if you give Elly that Wednesday, you give him 2 days. Just considerations of at least 1 day per month, time it up where he is capable of taking that day off back to back with an off day. So he's given multiple days. And then also being willing to put him as a DH once in a while. I know you want to open up that DH spot for guys like Gavin Lux, so you could put out guys in the outfield. And then you also got guys like Spencer Steer, Tyler Stevenson, McLean purposes. But it would also be nice, well, let's take, you know, all right, if we're on this 10-game stretch, you know, maybe after 5 days, we could afford to put him in that DH spot once or twice in a 10-day stretch. Gets him off his feet, off the field for those 2 days, but it keeps his at-bats, you know, in that lineup. So strategy is going to be key heading into 2026. And I feel like that's going to, and it's not just lurking around Elly De La Cruz. There's some other players that I think can benefit from the Reds, you know, by this strategy and placements. And I think I will say, you know, I like Terry Francona, but I think he needs to do a better job at managing guys that are on the 40-man roster. Luis May, Sam Moll, Connor Phillips, Josver Zulienta, Ben Rochvet, Edwin Arroyo, Christian Encarnacion. We also got Tyler Callahan, Blake Dunn, Reese Hines, Dane May, Hector Rodriguez. They're all part of the 40-man roster, and the only person that has been on the non-roster is Carson Spears. He's been invited back out to spring training. So, a little damper on the Reds at the end of 2025. I think we still have more time, but I think we can say that there is a clear image of what the Reds' concept is for 2026. Whether we like it or not, it is an image that we have to stick with. Alrighty, I want to wrap up my last segment here. I promise there's just one more thing. And sharing an article for top 25 sports moments. Now, this article is going to be directly from the CBS Sports, as I get the right camera angle, so bear with me. There we go. So, I want to give the right conception here. I just kind of reviewed this list. I will have a link in the description below. But something I want to share with you for the top 25 sports that CBS has for 2025. It was written by Austin Navision, Will Backus, and Carter Bonds. Coming in at number one for them is the House settlement radically reshapes future of the NCAA sports. College athletes governing body has been no stranger to the courtroom in recent years, and no case was as significant as House versus NCAA, which reached its conclusion on June 6. An antitrust settlement fundamentally altered the college sports landscape, most notably by paving the way for schools to directly pay athletes for the first time. New roster limits focused cuts across numerous sports, introducing a revenue sharing set a $20 million CASA salary cap for the players earning in college sports commission. That is number 1. Number 2, Roy McIlroy earns career slam, backs up Ryder Cup guarantee. Early in his career, he reviewed as a matter of when. If not, Roy would become the 6th player to complete his career Grand Slam after a decade-long major championship drought and some painful close calls at the Masters. Many wonder if McIlroy had too much mental scar tissue to overcome the Augusta Nationals, while Bryson DeChambeau and Justin Rose, I apologize for butchering these names, and other push him on the leaderboard all week. Coming in at number 3, Alex Ovechkin passes Wayne Gretzky for the first to 900. Gretzky, 894 career goals, stood in the all-time NHL record for 26 years. For much of that time, the record even seems unbreakable, with a great Gordie Howe sitting at the second-place record for 801 goals. That is until Alex Ovechkin began staking for the Washington Capitals in 2005. It took Ovechkin 20 years, 1,484 games later, as he finally get the same number as Gretzky played in his career. Surpassed the great one on April 6th. Second score goal was number 895 against the New York Islanders to become the steward of the record. A shot was from Ovechkin's signature spot and top the left circle, but featured a worse shot instead of his signature slapper. Number 4, Mavericks stunning deal over Luka Doncic to the Lakers. I thought this was one that really shot Mavericks in the foot for this one, but changed that landscape in basketball. College football's year of the coaching carousel. It's appropriate that one of the wildest college football seasons we have seen in a long time ended with the wildest coaching carousel to ever grace the sport. A whooping 12 Power 5 jobs change hands for a myriad of the series seasons, from poor performance to poaching and everything in between. Coming in at number 6 is developing dynasties. Major League Baseball hadn't seen a repeat champion since the New York Yankees pulled it off back in 1998 to 2000. It looked like a very tough road for the defending champions of the Dodgers. This time, too, with them finishing third in the NL in regular season wins. But the rotation came together for the playoffs nearly perfectly. They ran through the playoffs, and they beat the Blue Jays this season. And now they're going for another one next year, as Shohei Ohtani was the top-tier spot of the Dodgers last year. Number 7 is NBA ensnared in multiple gambling scandals. NBA was the center of yet another sports betting scandal, and this time it involved the coach, Portland Trail Blazer coach Chauncey Billups, Miami Heat guard Terry Rozier, and former player assistant coach Damon Jones were all arrested back in October as part of a wide-range gambling investigation by the FBI. Number 8, Scottie Scheffler is a machine. Into 2025 as an unquestioned best golfer on the planet. But to escade into the ranks of the all-time greats, he needed to back his sensational 2024 year with another dominant year. While he had 2 green jackets in his closet, Scheffler had yet to win any of the other majors, but he redeemed that by capturing the PGA Championship and Open Championship in dominant fashion to suddenly put himself at the U.S. Open victory away from a career Grand Slam. Number 9, Ohio State wins championship for the first year of the 12-team college playoffs. They look to repeat that here this year as they get ready to take on Miami in the quarterfinals. Number 10, the Eagles coast in a Super Bowl, deny the Chiefs of the NFL first. Well, the Eagles are back at it again, looking for a repeat this year, while the Chiefs find themselves outside the postseason for the first time in over a decade. The Florida blocks UConn's three-peat quest in a route NCAA tournament title. The second round of the NCAA tournament featured a rare matchup between UConn and a team that was number 8 seed, despite being the two-time reigning national champions, going against number 1 seed Florida, a team with the serious national title aspirations after running through the SEC. The theme of the Gators' eventually run to the nation's title was staging dynamic wins when it looked like the cards were stacked against them. Number 12, Aaron Rodgers, Steelers, Micah Parsons to the Packers, something that kind of really shocked the NFL heading into the new season. Aaron Rodgers signs with the Pittsburgh Steelers after having a drought with the Jets and recovering from an Achilles tendon injury. Well, Michael Parsons asks and receives a trade out to Green Bay after leaving the Dallas Cowboys. That all happened prior to the new season. Labor issues loomed over WNBA successes. In December, Indiana fever, and Caitlin Clark called the negotiations over a new collective bargaining agreement the biggest movement in the WNBA has ever seen. It's hard to argue with the description. The WNBA's popular has surged in recent years, but in 2026, it is in peril as the league and the players remain in a stalemate ahead of January 9th's deadline. To get a new CBA done, while everyone is in agreement that the players deserve a big raise, the union also wants a significant bigger share of the revenue, something the league isn't interested in relinquishing. In the latest escalations, the union voted to authorize a strike when necessary. Earlier in the year, the first season of Unrivaled, an independent player run off the season league, and a war of words between some of the league's marquee players and commissioners, Kathy Engelbert, had only one of the friction. Number 14, Belichick goes back to school. Belichick ends up coaching for the North Carolina Tar Heels. Sounds fake, right? No, that's true. After coaching for the Patriots in a successful, dominant career. Number 15, catcher Cal Raleigh dumps 60 home runs, something a rare sight to see, but Kyle Raleigh has hit the most home runs as a catcher, getting back to Salvador Perez back in 48 dingers in 21. Most home runs ever hit by a switch hitter came from the 1961 season with Mickey Mantle, who cracked 54 home runs, and the most home runs ever to hit by a Seattle Mariner came in 1997 and 1998 when Ken Griffey Jr. did it, went 56 times. Wow. You've only seen one player reach 60 home runs 9 times, and yet Seattle's Cal Raleigh, a switch hitter catcher who played his home game in the most pitcher-friendly park in the majors, clubbing a whooping 60 home runs in 2025, makes all kinds of history. Number 16, Shedeur Sanders saga from draft drop to surprise starter. He was picked up in the last rounds of the draft by the Cleveland Browns, gets benched early on, and ends up starting 2/3 of the way of the season for the Cleveland Browns. Sharon Moore, tragic fall. It is a tragic. We revealed it on our show earlier this month after being released by the Wolverines in Michigan over allegations against relationships with employees. Number 18, Paige Bueckers finally reaches mountaintop of UConn, collects another championship. Number 19, Thunder validates youth movement in bringing first NBA title to Oklahoma City. Number 20, did devastation injuries alter course of hoop history? Injuries always been a part of the sports. We have rarely seen as many high-profile players from the sport go down. So far, the dated last NBA season, we saw the San Antonio Spurs Stars on February 20th. Victor was diagnosed with a blood clot, prematurely ending his sophomore season after 46 games. March 3rd, the Mavericks star Kyrie Irving tears his ACL during a Dallas loss. In his season after 62 games, March 21st, the USC star Juju Watkins tears his ACL during the Trojans NCAA tournament victory over Mississippi State. April 27th, then the Milwaukee Bucks star Damian Lillard tears his Achilles tendon during a loss to the Indiana Pacers in the first round of the playoffs. May 12th, Boston Celtics star Jason Tatum tears his Achilles tendon during a loss to the New York Knicks in the second round of the NBA playoffs. January 22nd, Pacers star Tyrese Halliburton tears his Achilles tendon just 5 minutes into the game 7 of Indiana's loss to the Thunders in the NBA Finals. And on July 25th, Fever star Caitlin Clark strains her groin during Indiana's win over the Connecticut Suns, ending her injury-filled sophomore campaign after 13 games. Number 21, combat greats John Cena and Terrence Bud Crawford retire. We also see number 22, tennis next great rivalry has already arrived. A budding rivalry in men's tennis between the two best players in the world reached a catastrophic with Jannikins Sinner, 24, and Carlos Alcaraz, who's 22, splitting the year's 4 Grand Slam events, with Sinners already having captured the Australian Open in January. The first of the 3 meetings in major finals came in Paris. Number 23, going bats over torpedo bats. On March 29th, the New York Yankees hit home runs for the first 3 pitches of the game and just kept piling on and piling on. The world will end up hitting 9 home runs. The Yankees will end up hitting 9 home runs and scoring 20 runs against the Milwaukee Brewers in one of the most prolific power games in baseball history. Then took the story a life of its own. A few Yankees players were using innovative bat designs, while funny looking was perfectly legal and was being used by players on other teams as well. For a few days, people lost their minds, and that's how the torpedo bats came about. Number 24, Canada gets his last laugh in a testy Four Nations face-off, which supplanted the NHL's All-Star Game, pitted Team USA against Canada in the best format for the first time in 9 years. As it turned out, rivalries are a lot like riding a bike. You never really forget. It also helped that the game was played with a backdrop featured tariff threats and references Canada becoming the 51st state of the United States. All right, number 25, Indiana Dream season. College football fans spent all offseason wondering which team would be the year's iteration of 2024 Indiana, only for it to still be Indiana. In fact, not only did the Hoosiers repeat the success last season, but they far exceeded any benchmark of success by embarking on the best campaign of the program history. They capped a 12-0 regular season, with all but 2 of those wins coming at least 2 possessions. With a 13-10 win against Ohio State in the Big Ten championship game, giving them their first outright conference title in 80 years. That triumph also represents Indiana's first conference title game win ever and propelled to the top overall seed in the 2025 college football playoffs. That is my top 25 Stories, not mine. CBS Sports. Check out the article below. You could definitely, I'll have it in the description there. But man, apologize for the overlay here. Well over an hour, but we are just about done. 2025 was fun. I got to tell you, watching football, watching the Eagles beat the Chiefs was fun. Watching WrestleMania unfold, John Cena turn heel, that was fun. Watching the Reds pull through and finish off a season on a positive note, that was fun. You know, I wasn't having fun. I didn't like the Rock's return to the WWE only to drop out halfway through. And I hope this year in 2026 we don't see the Rock unless he's planning on actually being a part of a segment. You know, I don't know if they're all connected and this is just a long story that is slowly getting piece by piece together, but it gets a little bit annoying when we get to see that. So I wish that this year WWE takes a little bit more cautious about what they decide to do. A lot of people demanded things and they got them. And so I think that just being more cautious on this side will do much better. Also, you know, it was just a great year reflecting back on it. And so I can't wait to see what 2026 has to come. With that being said, that is all the time I had. Like I said, I've gone 20 minutes over what I've expected to go. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe, whether you guys are watching on our social media accounts. You could also download this podcast and listen to us on our audio platforms. The TNC Sports Talk is on Spotify, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, Apple, Google Podcast. Wherever you get your podcast needs, we are on it. And wherever you guys are celebrating New Year's this evening. I know out here it's supposed to snow again. You got New York Times Square. You got LA. You got Houston. Matter of fact, 2026 has already arrived for a lot of countries. But wherever you guys are celebrating your holiday season here, I want to wish you the best of luck, safe travels, drink responsibly, and I look forward to seeing you in 2026. We will be back January 5th, Monday, 7 p.m. We will recap the final week of the NFL, the next steps for college football playoffs, and recap and preparation for a WWE 2026. Thank you guys for watching and have yourself a great rest of your year.